Jack Morrison rode his brown horse along the edge of the Colorado River. The spring sun was getting low in the sky. The water rushed fast and loud below him. Ice and snow from the mountains had melted and made the river wild and dangerous. Jack was a cowboy. He was 32 years old and had lived on his small ranch for 5 years. His face was brown from the sun and wind. His hands were rough from hard work. He wore old boots, blue pants, and a hat that had seen many storms. Today Jack was looking for 3 cows that had walked away from his ranch. The cows liked to drink from the river, but the water was too high now. Jack hoped they had not tried to cross to the other side. The river made so much noise that Jack almost missed hearing something else. He stopped his horse and listened. Was that a cry for help? He looked down at the rushing water. There, in the middle of the river, Jack saw something that made his heart jump. A woman was fighting to stay above the water. Her long black hair was wet and stuck to her face. She held something small against her chest with one arm. With her other arm she tried to swim, but the water was too strong. Jack did not think. He jumped down from his horse and grabbed his rope. The rope was long and strong. Cowboys used ropes to catch cows, but today Jack would try to catch a person. The woman went under the water for a moment. Jack's hands shook as he made a loop in his rope. When she came back up, she was farther down the river. Jack ran along the bank, trying to stay close to her. The woman was getting weak. Jack could see that she was losing her fight with the water. Whatever she held in her arms was making it hard for her to swim. But she would not let go of it. Jack threw his rope. It landed in the water near the woman, but she could not grab it. She was too busy trying to keep her head up and hold on to what was in her arms. Jack pulled the rope back and tried again. This time the rope landed closer. The woman saw it and reached for it with her free hand. But the water pulled her away before she could grab it. Time was running out. The woman was going to drown if Jack did not help her soon. He could see rocks ahead in the river. If she hit them, she would die for sure. Jack made a choice that could kill him. He tied one end of the rope around his waist. The other end he tied to a strong tree. Then he jumped into the cold, fast water. The river tried to pull Jack under right away. The water was so cold it hurt. Jack could not breathe for a moment. But he was a strong swimmer and he fought his way to the surface. Jack swam hard toward the woman. The rope around his waist pulled tight, but it held. The current pushed him downstream, but the rope kept him from going too far. The woman saw Jack coming toward her. Her eyes were wide with fear and cold. She tried to swim toward him, but she was too weak. Jack reached out and grabbed the woman's arm. She was very cold and shaking. Now Jack could see what she was holding so tight. It was a baby wrapped in wet cloth. The woman looked at Jack with dark eyes full of hope and fear. She did not speak, but Jack understood. She wanted him to save her baby. Jack wrapped his arm around the woman and the baby. Then he pulled on the rope to tell his horse to back up. The horse was smart and had been trained well. It stepped back slowly, pulling Jack and the woman toward the bank. The water fought them every step. Jack's arm hurt from holding the woman and baby. The rope cut into his waist. The cold water made his whole body shake, but he did not let go. Slowly they moved closer to the side of the river. Jack's boots touched the bottom. He stood up and lifted the woman and baby out of the water. The woman could not stand. She fell to her knees on the muddy bank. Jack looked at the baby. It was a boy, maybe 6 months old. The baby was very cold and blue around the lips. He was not crying, which scared Jack. Babies should cry. The woman tried to speak, but Jack could not understand her words. She was not speaking English. Her lips were blue from cold and her whole body shook. Jack knew they would die if he did not get them warm soon. His ranch was 2 miles away. He had to move fast. Jack picked up the woman and baby and put them on his horse. The woman was too weak to hold on, so Jack climbed up behind her. He wrapped his coat around all 3 of them. The ride to Jack's ranch seemed to take forever. The woman fell in and out of sleep. Sometimes she would wake up and check on her baby. Then she would close her eyes again. Jack's ranch was small. He had a wooden house with 2 rooms, a barn for his horse, and a pen for his cows. It was not much, but it was warm and dry. Jack carried the woman and baby into his house. He made a fire in the stone fireplace as fast as he could. The house began to warm up. Jack had never taken care of a baby before. He did not know what to do. The woman was too weak to help. She lay on Jack's bed with her eyes closed. Jack found some old blankets and wrapped the baby in them. The baby was still very cold. Jack held the baby close to the fire, but not too close. Slowly, the baby's skin began to turn pink again. The woman needed dry clothes, but Jack only had men's clothes. He found his smallest shirt and put it on her while she slept. Then he covered her with every blanket he had. All night Jack watched over the woman and baby. He kept the fire burning bright. He gave the baby small drops of warm milk from his cow. The baby drank a little, which made Jack happy. The woman woke up a few times during the night. Each time she would look for her baby first. When she saw that the baby was safe, she would smile a little and go back to sleep. Jack did not sleep at all. He sat in his chair and watched the fire. He thought about the woman and baby. Where did they come from? How did they end up in the river? Why was the woman alone with a baby? As the sun began to rise, Jack heard something that made him stand up fast. It was the sound of many horses coming toward his ranch. The sound got louder and louder. Jack looked out his window and saw something that made his blood turn cold. Hundreds of men on horses were riding toward his house. They carried spears and bows. Their faces were painted for war. Jack had saved the woman and baby from the river. But now it looked like he might need someone to save him. Jack's heart beat fast as he watched the horses come closer. There were so many of them. The sound of their hooves made the ground shake under his feet. Dust rose high in the air behind them. The woman on Jack's bed woke up when she heard the noise. She sat up quickly and looked around. When she saw Jack looking out the window, she got up and walked to him. She was still weak, but she could walk now. The woman looked out the window and saw the riders. Her face went white. She said something in her own language, but Jack could not understand. She sounded scared. Jack could see the riders better now. They were Native American warriors. Their horses were painted with bright colors. The men had feathers in their hair and paint on their faces. Some carried spears, others had bows and arrows. They all looked angry. The woman grabbed Jack's arm. She pointed to herself and then to the baby. Then she pointed to the warriors outside. Jack began to understand. These men had come for her and the baby. Jack looked at his rifle hanging on the wall. But what good would one rifle do against hundreds of men? If he tried to fight, he would die for sure. Maybe the woman and baby would die too. The warriors stopped their horses in a line in front of Jack's house. They did not attack right away. They just sat on their horses and waited. One man rode forward from the group. He was older than the others and wore more feathers. Jack could tell this man was their leader. The leader called out in a loud voice. He spoke in his own language, not English. Jack did not know what the man was saying, but he sounded very angry. Jack opened his door slowly. He kept his hands where the warriors could see them. He did not want them to think he had a weapon. The woman followed him outside carrying her baby. When the warriors saw the woman, some of them made angry sounds. They pointed at her and then at Jack. They talked fast in their own language. Jack wished he could understand what they were saying. The leader got down from his horse and walked toward Jack. He was tall and strong, with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. His face was painted with red and black stripes. He looked like a man who had fought many battles. The leader stopped in front of Jack and stared at him for a long time. Jack tried not to look scared, but inside he was very afraid. The leader was bigger than Jack and looked much stronger. Then the leader started speaking to Jack in broken English. His voice was deep and angry. "You take my daughter," the leader said. "You bring shame to her. You bring shame to our people." Jack's mouth opened in surprise. This woman was the leader's daughter? No wonder so many warriors had come for her. "I save her," Jack said slowly. "She was in the river. She almost died." The leader's eyes got darker. "You lie. My daughter not go near river alone." The woman stepped forward and spoke to her father in their language. She talked fast and pointed to the river. Then she pointed to Jack and made motions like swimming. Jack could tell she was trying to explain what happened. But the leader did not look like he believed her. He shook his head and spoke back to her in an angry voice. The woman's eyes filled with tears, but she kept talking. Other warriors got down from their horses and walked closer. They made a circle around Jack, the woman, and the baby. Jack felt trapped. There was nowhere to run. One young warrior stepped forward and said something to the leader. The young man looked at Jack with hate in his eyes. He wanted to fight. Jack could see it in the way the young warrior held his spear. The leader held up his hand to stop the young warrior. Then he looked at Jack again. "You are in my daughter's house all night," the leader said. "This brings great shame. Our law says you must pay." Jack did not understand. "I help her. I save her life. How is that shame?" An older warrior who spoke better English came forward. In our way, if man and woman stay together in house at night, they must marry or man must die. Jack felt sick. He had been trying to save the woman's life. Now they wanted to kill him for it. But I did not hurt her. I only help her get warm. She almost died from cold water. The woman spoke up again. She talked to her father for a long time. She pointed to her baby and then to Jack. She made swimming motions again. Jack could tell she was trying to save his life. The leader listened to his daughter, but his face stayed angry. When she finished talking, he shook his head. "My daughter says you save her from river," the leader said to Jack. "But you still bring shame by keeping her in your house. Our ways are old. They do not change." Jack felt hopeless. These people had laws he did not understand. He had saved a woman's life, and now they wanted to kill him for it. "What can I do?" Jack asked. "How can I fix this?" The leader thought for a moment. Then he spoke to the other warriors in their language. They talked for a long time. Some pointed at Jack and looked angry. Others pointed at the woman and baby. Finally, the leader turned back to Jack. "You will have 3 tests," he said. "If you pass all 3 tests, we will know you are man of honor. Then you can live. What if I fail?" Jack asked. The leader's face was hard as stone. "Then you die." Jack looked at the woman. She was crying now, but she nodded at him. She wanted him to take the tests. It was his only chance to live. "What are the tests?" Jack asked. "First test is test of courage," the leader said. "You must face Wild Horse with no rope, no weapon. Only your hands." Jack had broken wild horses before, but always with a rope and saddle. To face a wild horse with nothing seemed impossible. "Second test is test of wisdom," the leader continued. "You must answer question that has no easy answer." "What is third test?" Jack asked. "Third test is test of heart," the leader said. "You must give up something you love for good of others." Jack did not know what that meant, but it sounded hard. All 3 tests sounded hard. The woman walked to Jack and put her hand on his arm. She looked into his eyes and spoke softly in her language. Jack did not understand her words, but he could see she was saying thank you. She was also saying she was sorry for the trouble he was in. Jack looked at the baby in her arms. The baby was warm now and his skin was pink. He was alive because Jack had saved him from the river. That had to count for something. "When do I take these tests?" Jack asked the leader. "Tomorrow when sun is high," the leader said. "Tonight you stay in your house. We will watch you. If you try to run, we will kill you." The leader said something to his warriors. Most of them got back on their horses and rode away. But 20 warriors stayed behind. They made camp around Jack's house. Jack was their prisoner now. The woman and her baby would stay with the warriors tonight. Jack would be alone in his house. He watched as the woman walked away with her father. She looked back at Jack one time and smiled sadly. That night, Jack sat by his fire and thought about the tests. He had to pass all 3 or he would die. The wild horse test scared him the most. A wild horse could kill a man with 1 kick. But Jack had made his choice when he jumped in the river to save the woman. He could not change that now. He would face the test tomorrow and hope for the best. Outside his house, the warriors kept watch. Jack could see their fires burning in the darkness. Tomorrow would decide if he lived or died. Jack did not sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he thought about the tests he would face. The warriors outside kept their fires burning all night. Sometimes Jack could hear them talking in low voices. When morning came, Jack made coffee and ate some bread. It might be his last meal, so he tried to enjoy it. His hands shook a little as he held the coffee cup. He was more scared than he wanted to admit. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Soon it would be time for the tests. Jack put on his best clothes and boots. If he was going to die today, he wanted to look like a man with pride. A warrior came to Jack's door when the sun was straight up in the sky. The warrior was young and did not speak English. He pointed toward a flat area behind Jack's house where the other warriors were waiting. Jack walked outside and saw that all the warriors had come back. There were hundreds of them, just like yesterday. They sat on their horses in a big circle around the flat ground. In the middle of the circle, the leader waited for Jack. The woman was there too, standing near her father. She held her baby close to her chest. When she saw Jack, she gave him a small smile. But Jack could see she was worried. The leader stood up tall and spoke in a loud voice. He talked in his own language first, so all the warriors could understand. Then he spoke in English for Jack. "Jack Morrison," the leader said. You saved my daughter Ayana from the river. For this we thank you, but you also brought shame by keeping her in your house all night. For this you must be tested." So the woman's name was Ayana. Jack thought it was a pretty name. "These tests will show us who you really are," the leader continued. "Are you a man of honor? Are you brave? Are you wise? Are you willing to sacrifice for others? The tests will tell us." The leader pointed to the edge of the circle. "Bring the horse," he called out. 4 warriors led a black horse into the circle. The horse was wild and angry. Its eyes rolled white with fear and rage. It kicked and tried to bite the warriors. They had to use long ropes to control it. Jack had seen wild horses before, but this one was different. This horse hated people. Jack could see it in the way the horse moved. It wanted to hurt someone. "This is Thunder," the leader said. "He has never been broken by any man. Many have tried. Some have died. Your first test is to put your hands on Thunder and make him stand still. You have no rope, no saddle, nothing but your hands." The warriors let go of Thunder and quickly moved away. The horse stood in the middle of the circle, snorting and pawing the ground. It looked at Jack like he was an enemy. Jack walked slowly toward Thunder. He kept his hands low and spoke in a soft voice. "Easy, boy. I'm not going to hurt you." Thunder did not like Jack coming closer. The horse reared up on his back legs and struck at the air with his front hooves. Jack jumped back to avoid being hit. The warriors around the circle watched quietly. Some looked like they wanted Jack to fail. Others seemed curious to see what would happen. Jack tried again. This time he moved even slower. He made soft clicking sounds with his tongue, the way cowboys do when they want to calm a horse. But Thunder was too wild and angry. The horse charged at Jack with his teeth showing. Jack had to dive to the side to get out of the way. Thunder's hooves missed his head by inches. Some of the warriors laughed. This was not going well. Jack stood up and dusted off his clothes. He thought about what his father had taught him about wild horses. "Never try to fight them," his father had said. "Try to understand what they're afraid of." Jack looked at Thunder more carefully. The horse was scared, not just angry. Something had made this horse hate and fear people. Maybe someone had hurt Thunder before. Jack sat down on the ground and did not move. This surprised everyone, including Thunder. The horse stopped charging and looked at Jack with confusion. "I'm not going to chase you," Jack said quietly. "I'm just going to sit here." Thunder walked around Jack in a circle but kept his distance. The horse was trying to figure out what Jack was doing. Jack just sat still and waited. After a long time, Thunder moved a little closer. Jack still did not move. The horse came closer still until he was only a few feet away. Thunder sniffed the air, trying to understand this strange man who did not try to catch him. Very slowly, Jack held out his hand. Thunder jumped back but then moved forward again. The horse was curious now instead of just angry. Jack kept his hand out and waited. Finally, Thunder stretched his neck forward and sniffed Jack's hand. Jack did not grab at the horse. He just let Thunder smell him. Then Jack did something that surprised everyone. He started to sing. It was an old cowboy song his mother used to sing to him. Jack's voice was soft and low. Thunder's ears moved forward. He liked the sound. Jack kept singing and slowly stood up. Thunder did not run away. Jack reached out very slowly and touched Thunder's neck. The horse jumped a little but did not run. Jack kept singing and gently stroked the horse's neck. The warriors around the circle were very quiet now. They had never seen anyone calm Thunder like this. Jack continued to pet Thunder's neck and sing. Then he put both hands on the horse's neck and stood close to him. Thunder stood still, breathing hard but not fighting. The leader looked amazed. "You have passed the first test," he said. "Thunder has accepted you." Jack felt a little proud, but he knew the hardest tests were still coming. He gave Thunder one last pat and walked away from the horse. "The second test is the test of wisdom," the leader said. "I will ask you a question. You must give the right answer." Jack nodded. He was ready. The leader thought for a moment, then asked, "A man's daughter is captured by his enemies. To save her, he must kill his own son. To save his son, he must let his daughter die. What should the man do?" Jack felt his heart sink. This was an impossible question. How could anyone choose between their children? Either answer seemed wrong. Jack thought hard. The warriors waited silently. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing. Finally, Jack spoke. "The man should try to find a third way. Maybe he can offer himself in place of both children. Maybe he can find another solution. A good father does not choose which child to let die. He finds a way to save both or dies trying." The leader was quiet for a long time. Jack did not know if his answer was right or wrong. Many men have answered this question, the leader finally said. Most choose to save the son because sons carry on the family name. Others choose to save the daughter because daughters are precious. You are the first to say the father should sacrifice himself. This shows wisdom and love. Jack felt relief wash over him. He had passed the second test. Now comes the hardest test, the leader said. The test of the heart. You must give up something you love for the good of others. But you must choose what to give up. We will not tell you what to sacrifice. Jack looked around at his small ranch. What did he love most? His horse? His house? His few cows? None of these seemed important enough. Then Jack realized what the test was really about. It was not about giving up things. It was about giving up something much more important. Jack thought about his life. He lived alone on his ranch. He had no wife, no children, no family nearby. He was lonely most of the time, but he was free. He could go where he wanted and do what he wanted. His freedom was what he loved most. I will give up my freedom, Jack said. If you spare my life, I will serve your people. I will use my skills to help your tribe. I will not leave without permission. I will give up my freedom to make up for the shame I brought to your daughter. The leader's eyes went wide. This was not what he had expected. Around the circle, the warriors talked quietly to each other. Ayana stepped forward and spoke to her father in their language. She sounded upset. Jack could tell she did not want him to give up his freedom. The leader held up his hand for silence. You offer to be our slave? Not a slave, Jack said. A helper, someone who chooses to stay and help because it is right. The leader thought about this for a long time. Then he smiled for the first time since Jack had met him. You have passed all 3 tests, the leader said. You have courage, wisdom, and a good heart. But I will not take your freedom. A man who would give up his freedom to help others deserves to keep it. Jack felt like he could breathe again. He was going to live. But then the leader's face became serious again. However, we have a bigger problem now. My daughter was running away when she fell in the river. She was trying to escape a marriage to a cruel warrior from another tribe. Now that tribe knows where she is. They are coming to take her by force. Jack looked at Ayana. She was crying now but trying to hide it. How many warriors are coming? Jack asked. Many, the leader said. Maybe more than we have here. And they will be here soon. Jack made a decision that would change everything. Then we better get ready to fight. The leader, who Jack learned was called Chief Standing Bear, looked surprised when Jack offered to help fight. Many of the warriors around the circle started talking at once. Some sounded angry, others confused. You would fight for us? Chief Standing Bear asked. You are not our people. This is not your fight. Jack looked at Ayana holding her baby. The fear in her eyes made his decision easy. You said I brought shame to your daughter. Now I want to help remove that shame. Besides, I don't like bullies who try to steal women. A young warrior with many scars on his chest stepped forward. His name was Running Wolf, and Jack could tell he did not like white men. Running Wolf spoke angrily to the chief in their language. The chief listened, then turned to Jack. Running Wolf says we should not trust you. He says white men always betray us in the end. He thinks you will run away when the fighting starts. Jack understood why Running Wolf felt this way. White men had broken many promises to native peoples. Jack would have to prove himself. I don't blame him for not trusting me, Jack said. But I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me help. If I run away, you can hunt me down and kill me. Ayana spoke up for the first time since the tests. She talked to her father in their language, then turned to Jack and spoke in broken English. I tell father you are a good man, she said. You saved my baby. You saved me. Now you want to save all of us. An old warrior with white hair came forward. Jack could tell this man was respected by the others. The old warrior spoke to the chief for a long time. Chief Standing Bear nodded as he listened. Then he looked at Jack again. Gray Eagle says you fought thunder with wisdom, not force. He thinks you might fight our enemies the same way. He wants to know what you think we should do. Jack felt the weight of all their eyes on him. These people were asking for his help, but he had to be careful. He knew nothing about fighting large battles. First, tell me about the enemy, Jack said. How many men? What weapons? How do they usually fight? Chief Standing Bear called over several warriors and they began to draw pictures in the dirt. They showed Jack where the enemy tribe lived, how many warriors they had, and what their war chief was like. Blackhawk leads them, the chief explained. He has 200 warriors, maybe more. They fight on horseback with spears and bows. Black Hawk is cruel and smart. He has never lost a battle. Jack studied the drawings in the dirt. When will they get here? Tomorrow, maybe the day after, Chief Standing Bear said. Our scouts saw them moving this way. Why does Black Hawk want to marry Ayana? Jack asked. Chief Standing Bear's face grew dark. Marriage would join our tribes. Black Hawk wants our hunting grounds and our horses. If he marries my daughter, he can claim them. Jack began to understand. This was not just about marriage. It was about power and land. What if Ayana was already married to someone else? Jack asked. Would Black Hawk still attack? The chief looked confused. Who would she marry? There is no time to arrange a marriage with another tribe. Jack felt his face get red. He had an idea, but it was crazy. What if she married me? The silence around the circle was so complete that Jack could hear his own heartbeat. Even the horses stopped moving. Running Wolf was the first to react. He jumped up and grabbed his spear. He shouted something that Jack was sure meant he wanted to kill him, but Chief Standing Bear held up his hand for calm. He looked at Jack with new interest. You would marry my daughter to save her from Black Hawk? Only if she wants to, Jack said quickly. And only to protect her. She could leave me later if she wanted to. Ayana's eyes went wide. She spoke quickly to her father in their language. Jack could tell she was asking many questions. Chief Standing Bear talked with several of the older warriors. They spoke in low voices for a long time. Jack waited, not knowing if his idea was brilliant or foolish. Finally, the chief turned back to Jack. In our law, marriage would protect Ayana from Black Hawk. He could not claim her or our lands, but marriage between our peoples has never happened before. There's a first time for everything, Jack said. Gray Eagle, the old warrior, stepped forward and said something to the chief. Jack caught a few English words. The old man was talking about building bridges between peoples. Gray Eagle says maybe it is time for our peoples to learn from each other, Chief Standing Bear said. But first we must survive Black Hawk's attack. Marriage will not stop him from fighting us. It will only make him more angry. Jack nodded. Then we need to be ready for war. The chief called all his war leaders together. Jack found himself in the middle of a war council, something no white man had probably ever experienced. The warriors drew more pictures in the dirt, showing the land around Jack's ranch. They talked about where to put fighters and how to defend against attack. Jack listened carefully, then made his own suggestions. Black Hawk expects you to fight the old way, he said. What if we surprise him? What do you mean? Chief Standing Bear asked. Jack picked up a stick and drew in the dirt. Your people are great fighters on horseback, but you also know this land better than Black Hawk does. What if we use that? Jack showed them his idea. Instead of meeting Black Hawk's army in open battle, they could use the hills and trees around Jack's ranch to their advantage. Small groups of warriors could attack and then disappear like wolves hunting buffalo. Running Wolf spoke angrily. Jack could tell he thought this was cowards fighting, but Gray Eagle nodded slowly. The young white man thinks like a fox, he said in English. Sometimes the fox defeats the bear by being clever. They talked for hours as the sun moved across the sky. Jack learned that these warriors were not just fighters, they were smart planners. They knew things about warfare that Jack had never imagined. As evening came, Chief Standing Bear made his decision. We will try Jack's plan, he said. If it works, we live. If it fails, we die fighting. The chief called Ayana over to them. Father and daughter talked privately for a long time. Jack could see Ayana looking at him while they talked. When they finished, Chief Standing Bear came back to Jack. My daughter agrees to marry you if it will save our people. But she has one condition. What condition? Jack asked. She wants to fight beside us when Black Hawk comes. She says she will not hide while others risk their lives for her. Jack looked at Ayana. She was small and gentle, but he could see strength in her eyes. This was a woman who would not run from danger. Can she fight? Jack asked. Chief Standing Bear smiled. My daughter can shoot a bow better than most men. She has been trained in war since she was a child, but no woman has ever fought in our battles before. Then it's time for another first, Jack said. That night, there was a wedding ceremony unlike any that had been seen before. Jack and Ayana were married by firelight with hundreds of warriors as witnesses. Jack did not understand the words that were spoken, but he understood their meaning. When the ceremony was over, Ayana came to Jack. She spoke quietly in English. I thank you for saving my life and my baby's life, she said. Now I thank you for saving my people's life. I will be good wife to you if you want me to be. Jack looked into her dark eyes. I want us to be friends first, he said. Everything else can come later if it's meant to be. Ayanna smiled. You are different from other men I have known. I think maybe we can be good friends. As they talked, scouts came running into camp. They had seen Blackhawk's army. The enemy was closer than expected. They will be here at sunrise, the scout reported. Chief Standing Bear stood up and called to his warriors. Tonight we prepare for war. Tomorrow we fight for our freedom. Jack looked at his new wife and her baby. He looked at the warriors who had accepted him as one of their own. Tomorrow would test everything they had planned. But tonight, for the first time in years, Jack did not feel alone. He was part of something bigger than himself. He was part of a family, a tribe, a people who would stand and fight together. Whatever happened tomorrow, they would face it as one. Jack did not sleep much on his wedding night. He spent most of the dark hours helping the warriors prepare for battle. They checked their weapons, planned their positions, and talked quietly about the fight to come. Ayanna worked beside the men, preparing arrows and checking bowstrings. The other women in the tribe helped too, but Jack noticed that many of the warriors still seemed uncomfortable with the idea of Ayanna fighting. They do not like me being in battle, Ayanna said to Jack when she saw him watching the warriors' faces. Are you sure you want to fight? Jack asked. You have a baby to think about. Ayanna's eyes flashed with anger. Blackhawk wants to steal me like I'm a horse or cow. I will not hide while others fight for my freedom. My baby needs a mother who stands up to bullies, Jack understood. Ayanna was not just fighting for her tribe. She was fighting for her right to choose her own life. As the first light of dawn appeared in the sky, the scouts came running back to camp. Blackhawk comes, one of them called out. His warriors spread across the valley like a dark cloud. Chief Standing Bear called his fighters together. Jack counted about 150 warriors, including some older boys who wanted to prove themselves as men. Against Blackhawk's 200 fighters, they would be outnumbered. Remember the plan, the chief told everyone. We do not meet them in open battle. We use the land to help us. We strike fast and disappear like shadows. Jack had spent the night placing his few rifles in the hands of the warriors who could use them best. Most of the fighters would use their traditional bows and spears, but the rifles might give them an edge. Jack also had an idea that he had not told anyone about yet. He had been thinking about it all night and now seemed like the right time. Chief Standing Bear, Jack said. I want to try something. Let me ride out alone to talk to Blackhawk first. The chief looked shocked. That is suicide. Blackhawk will kill you before you can speak. Maybe, Jack said, but maybe not. If I can confuse him or make him angry, he might make mistakes. Running Wolf stepped forward. You want to run away, he said in broken English. You want to save yourself and leave us to die. Jack looked Running Wolf in the eyes. If I wanted to run away, I would have done it last night. Give me one chance to try this. If it doesn't work, you can still fight your way. Chief Standing Bear thought about it. Finally, he nodded. You have earned the right to try. But if Blackhawk captures you, we cannot save you. I know, Jack said. He kissed Ayanna on the forehead. If something happens to me, take care of yourself and the baby. Ayanna grabbed his arm. Do not do this. I cannot lose you too. You won't lose me, Jack said, hoping he was right. Jack climbed on his horse and rode out toward the valley where Blackhawk's army was approaching. As he got closer, he could see how big the enemy force really was. Blackhawk had not just brought warriors. He had brought the whole war party, horses, weapons, and men who looked like they lived for fighting. Blackhawk himself rode at the front of his army. He was a big man with muscles like a bear and scars covering his arms and chest. His face was painted red and black for war. When he saw Jack riding toward them alone, he held up his hand to stop his warriors. Jack rode close enough to talk, but far enough away to run if he needed to. Blackhawk stared at him with cold, dark eyes. I am Blackhawk, the war chief called out in English. Who are you, white man? Why do you ride to your death? I am Jack Morrison, Jack replied. I am husband to Ayanna, daughter of Chief Standing Bear. Blackhawk's face twisted with rage. He said something in his own language that made his warriors laugh, but it did not sound like a happy laugh. You lie, Blackhawk said. Ayanna belongs to me. Her father promised her to me. Her father promised her to you before she chose me, Jack said. Now she is married to me by the laws of her people. She is no longer yours to take. Blackhawk's hand moved to his war club. I will kill you and take her anyway. Then I will kill her father for breaking his promise. You could try, Jack said, keeping his voice calm. But killing me won't change the fact that Ayanna chose me over you. What does that say about you? That a white stranger is better than Blackhawk? Jack was gambling with his life now. He was trying to make Blackhawk so angry that the war chief would do something stupid. It worked. Blackhawk screamed with rage and kicked his horse forward. I will tear your heart out with my bare hands. But as Blackhawk charged, Jack spun his horse around and galloped back toward the hills. This was part of his plan. He wanted Blackhawk to chase him away from the main army. Blackhawk and about 20 of his fastest warriors followed Jack into the hills. Jack knew this land well now, and he led them through narrow paths between rocks and trees. When Jack reached the spot he had planned, he jumped off his horse and scrambled up a rocky hill. Blackhawk and his men had to get off their horses too and follow on foot. What Blackhawk did not know was that Chief Standing Bear's warriors were hiding behind the rocks above them. When Blackhawk and his men were halfway up the hill, the ambush began. Arrows flew down from above. 3 of Blackhawk's warriors fell right away. The others tried to climb higher, but more arrows came from different directions. Blackhawk realized he had been tricked. He screamed orders to his men, but they were trapped between the rocks with nowhere to hide. Jack had his rifle ready. When Blackhawk tried to charge up the hill toward him, Jack shot over the war chief's head. The loud bang of the rifle echoed through the hills. Give up, Blackhawk, Jack called out. Your men are dying for nothing. Turn around and go home. But Blackhawk was too proud and too angry to quit. He kept climbing toward Jack, dodging arrows and rocks thrown by the hidden warriors. When Blackhawk got close, Jack threw down his rifle and pulled out his knife. This would be a fair fight man to man. Blackhawk was bigger and stronger than Jack, but Jack was quicker. They fought on the narrow ledge, rolling and struggling with their knives flashing in the morning sun. Blackhawk managed to cut Jack's arm, but Jack's knife found Blackhawk's shoulder. Both men were bleeding, but neither would give up. Finally, Jack got lucky. Blackhawk stepped wrong on the rocky ground and lost his balance. Jack grabbed him and held his knife to Blackhawk's throat. It's over, Jack panted. Tell your men to stop fighting. Blackhawk looked down at his remaining warriors. Most of them were dead or wounded. The ambush had worked perfectly. You fight like a coward, Blackhawk said, hiding behind rocks like a woman. I fight like a man who wants to win, Jack replied. There's a difference between being brave and being stupid. Blackhawk had no choice. He called out to his men in his own language. The fighting stopped. Jack let Blackhawk stand up but kept his knife ready. Here's what's going to happen, Jack said. You're going to take your remaining men and leave. You're going to forget about Ayanna and Chief Standing Bear's tribe. If you come back, we'll be ready for you again. Blackhawk's eyes burned with hate, but he was beaten and he knew it. This is not over, white man. Yes, it is, Jack said. Ayanna made her choice. Respect it and move on. Jack watched as Blackhawk and his surviving warriors collected their dead and wounded and rode away. The great war chief looked smaller now, like a man who had lost more than just a battle. When they were gone, Chief Standing Bear and his warriors came out from behind the rocks. They were all smiling and laughing. They had won without losing a single man. That was the smartest fighting I have ever seen, Chief Standing Bear said to Jack. You made Blackhawk come to us instead of fighting where he was strong. Running Wolf, who had been one of the warriors in the ambush, came up to Jack. The young warrior looked embarrassed. I was wrong about you, Running Wolf said. You did not run away. You led our enemies into a trap. You fight with your brain as well as your hands. I'm sorry I doubted you. Jack shook Running Wolf's hand. You were right to doubt me. You didn't know me, but now you do. When they got back to the camp, Ayanna ran to Jack and threw her arms around him. She did not care that he was bloody and dirty. She was just happy he was alive. I thought I would lose you on the same day I married you, she said with tears in her eyes. You're stuck with me now, Jack said, holding her close, for better or worse. That night there was a victory celebration. The warriors told the story of the battle over and over, each time making Jack's part sound more heroic. But Jack knew the truth. They had won because they worked together. White man and Native American, young and old, men and women, they had all fought as one people. As Jack sat by the fire with Ayanna and her baby, he realized something had changed inside him. He was no longer just a lonely cowboy trying to survive on his own. He was part of a family now, part of a tribe that had accepted him as one of their own. The baby reached up and grabbed Jack's finger with his tiny hand. Jack smiled down at the child who might grow up in a world where different peoples could live together in peace. Maybe that was worth fighting for. 3 weeks passed after the battle with Black Hawk. Jack's arm healed well from the knife cut, and life began to settle into a new pattern. Jack lived sometimes in his own house and sometimes in the native camp. He was learning their language, and some of the warriors were learning English from him. Ayanna was a good teacher. She helped Jack understand the ways of her people. In return, Jack taught her more English and showed her how to use some of the tools from his ranch. The baby, who Ayanna called Little Wolf, seemed to like Jack. The child would reach for Jack when he came near and fall asleep in his arms by the fire at night. Jack was beginning to think that maybe this strange marriage could become something real and good. He and Ayanna were becoming true friends, and Jack could see that she was starting to trust him with her heart. But their peaceful time was about to end. One morning, a young warrior named Swift Horse came riding hard into camp. His horse was covered with sweat and breathing hard. Swift Horse had been scouting far to the north. "Chief Standing Bear," Swift Horse called out as he jumped from his horse. "Bad news comes from the north. Black Hawk has joined with the Crow tribe. They have many warriors now, and they are coming back." Chief Standing Bear's face became serious. "How many warriors?" "More than before," Swift Horse said. "Maybe 400, maybe more. And they have white men with them too. Men with guns." Jack felt his stomach drop. 400 warriors was too many. Even with their smart fighting tricks, Chief Standing Bear's tribe could not win against so many enemies. "White men?" Jack asked. "What kind of white men?" "Bad white men," Swift Horse said. "Men who sell guns and whiskey to tribes for money. Men who do not care about law." Jack knew about men like that. They were called gun runners, and they made money by selling weapons to anyone who would pay. They did not care if their guns were used to kill innocent people. Black Hawk must have promised them something valuable to get their help. Chief Standing Bear said, "He promised them our horses and our land," Swift Horse replied. "He told them they could have half of everything after we are defeated." Jack felt anger rise in his chest. These gun runners were not just helping Black Hawk get revenge. They were trying to steal everything Chief Standing Bear's people owned. "When will they get here?" Chief Standing Bear asked. 2 days, maybe 3, Swift Horse said. Chief Standing Bear called a meeting of all his war leaders. They sat in a circle and talked about what to do. Some wanted to pack up the tribe and run to distant mountains. Others wanted to fight where they were. Jack listened to all the ideas, but none of them seemed good enough. Running away would only delay the problem. Black Hawk would follow them wherever they went. Fighting here would mean certain death against so many enemies. "We need help," Jack finally said. "We cannot win this fight alone. Who would help us?" Running Wolf asked. "The white men in the towns fear us. Other tribes are too far away or too weak." Jack had been thinking about this problem. There are white men who do not like gun runners either. Men who believe in law and order. Maybe some of them would help us. Chief Standing Bear looked doubtful. "White men helping native people? This has not happened before." "It could happen now," Jack said. "Some white men are good people. They just need to understand what is really happening here." Jack explained his idea. The nearest town was Silver Creek, about 2 days' ride away. There was a sheriff there named Tom Bradley who Jack had met a few times. Sheriff Bradley was an honest man who did not like criminals. "If I can make Sheriff Bradley understand that gun runners are breaking the law, he might help us," Jack said. "You want to ride to a white town and ask for help fighting other white men?" Running Wolf asked. "They will never believe you." "Maybe not," Jack said. "But I have to try. We need every chance we can get." Ayanna spoke up. "I will go with you." Jack shook his head. "It's too dangerous, and you need to stay with Little Wolf." "My baby needs his mother alive," Ayanna said. "If we lose this fight, Black Hawk will kill me anyway. Better to try everything we can." Chief Standing Bear thought about Jack's plan. "It is a long chance," he said finally, "but maybe our only chance. Go to this sheriff. If he will not help come back quickly, we will need every fighter we have." Jack and Ayanna prepared to leave right away. They took fast horses and enough food for the long ride. Jack also took a letter he wrote to Sheriff Bradley explaining the situation. Before they left, Chief Standing Bear pulled Jack aside. "If the white men will not help, do not feel bad. You have already done more for us than we had any right to ask." "You're my family now," Jack said. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family." The ride to Silver Creek was hard and fast. Jack and Ayanna pushed their horses as much as they dared. They had to get help and get back before Black Hawk arrived. Along the way, Jack and Ayanna talked about many things. She told him about her childhood, about the games she played and the stories her grandmother told her. Jack told her about his own childhood, about the parents who died when he was young and the lonely years since then. "Do you miss your old life?" Ayanna asked as they rested their horses by a stream. Jack thought about it. "I miss the quiet sometimes, but I do not miss being alone. I like having people who care about me. Even if those people are different from you, especially because they are different from me," Jack said. "I learn new things every day. I see the world in ways I never saw it before." Ayanna smiled. "I feel the same way. You have shown me that not all white men are the same. Some have good hearts." They reached Silver Creek late in the afternoon of the second day. The town was small, with just one main street and a few stores and houses. Jack had been here a few times to buy supplies, but he had never brought a Native American woman with him before. People on the street stopped and stared as Jack and Ayanna rode down the main street. Some looked curious, others looked afraid or angry. Jack heard someone say something about savages and felt his anger rise. The sheriff's office was a small wooden building with iron bars on the windows. Jack tied up the horses and went inside with Ayanna. Sheriff Bradley was a tall, thin man with gray hair and kind eyes. He looked surprised to see Jack and even more surprised to see Ayanna. "Jack Morrison," the sheriff said. "What brings you to town? And who is this?" "This is my wife Ayanna," Jack said. "We need your help, Sheriff. There are criminals heading for our land and they plan to kill innocent people." Sheriff Bradley looked confused. "Your wife?" "Jack, what in blazes is going on?" Jack told the sheriff everything. He explained about saving Ayanna from the river, about the marriage, and about Black Hawk's plan to attack with the help of gun runners. "Gun runners, you say?" Sheriff Bradley looked more interested now. "What did these men look like?" Ayanna spoke up in English. "One man very big with red hair and beard. Another man thin with gold teeth. They have many guns and boxes of bullets." Sheriff Bradley's face went hard. "Sounds like Bart Mullins and Snake Peterson. I've been looking for those two for months. They're wanted for selling guns to anyone with money, no questions asked." "Will you help us stop them?" Jack asked. Sheriff Bradley was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I can't officially help you fight a battle, but I can arrest criminals who are breaking federal law. If these gun runners are on your land illegally, that's a crime." "What about Black Hawk and his warriors?" Ayanna asked. "That's trickier," the sheriff said. "But if they're working with known criminals, I might be able to do something about that too." Sheriff Bradley called in his two deputies. Both men were young but looked tough and honest. The sheriff explained the situation to them. "I'll need volunteers," Sheriff Bradley said. "This could be dangerous and I can't order you to come." Both deputies said they would come. Then, to Jack's surprise, other men in town began volunteering too. The blacksmith, the store owner, even the preacher said they wanted to help. "Why are you all willing to help?" Jack asked. The blacksmith, a big man named Pete, answered. "Those gun runners have been causing trouble all over this territory. It's time someone stopped them. Besides, if you say these native folks are good people, that's enough for me." By evening, Sheriff Bradley had gathered 20 men who wanted to help. They were not soldiers, but they were honest men who knew how to use guns and were not afraid of a fight. "We'll ride out first thing in the morning," Sheriff Bradley said. "If we push hard, we can get to your land before Black Hawk arrives." That night, Jack and Ayanna stayed in the town hotel. It was the first time they had been alone together since their wedding. "Really alone in a room with a real bed, are you nervous?" Jack asked as they got ready for sleep. "A little," Ayanna said. "Not about the fighting, about us. About what happens after the fighting is over." Jack understood. They had married to solve a problem, but now they were becoming something more. Neither of them was sure what that meant. "We don't have to figure it all out tonight," Jack said. "Let's just win this fight first. Then we can decide what kind of life we want to build together." Ayanna smiled and took his hand. "Whatever happens, I am glad I fell in the river that day. I'm glad you were there to save me." "I'm glad too," Jack said, and he meant it. Outside their window, they could hear the men preparing for tomorrow's ride. Guns were being cleaned, horses were being checked, and plans were being made. Dawn came too quickly for Jack. He and Ayanna were already dressed and ready when Sheriff Bradley knocked on their hotel room door. Outside, 20 armed men waited with their horses, looking serious but determined. "Everyone knows the plan?" Sheriff Bradley asked as they mounted up. Jack nodded. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would ride hard to reach Chief Standing Bear's camp before Black Hawk arrived. Then they would set up positions to catch the gun runners when the attack began. The ride back to Jack's ranch took most of the day. The men from Silver Creek were good riders, but they were not used to traveling this far this fast. By afternoon, some of them looked tired. "How much further?" asked Pete the blacksmith, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We're almost there," Jack said. He could see the hills around his ranch in the distance. As they got closer, Jack saw smoke rising from the native camp. But it was not the smoke of cooking fires. It was too much smoke, too dark. "Something's wrong," Jack said to Sheriff Bradley. "That looks like battle smoke," Ayanna finished, her face pale with worry. They pushed their horses harder. When they reached the top of the last hill, they could see the whole valley below. Jack's heart sank at what he saw. Black Hawk had arrived early. The battle had already started. Below them, hundreds of warriors on horses fought in the valley around Jack's ranch. Jack could see Chief Standing Bear's men fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered badly. Bodies lay on the ground, and the sound of gunshots mixed with war cries. "We're too late," one of the deputies said. "No, we're not," Jack said, pulling out his rifle. "The fight's still going on. That means our people are still alive." Sheriff Bradley studied the battle below. "I can see the gun runners," he said, pointing to a group of white men with rifles positioned on a small hill. "They're the ones with the most firepower. If we can stop them, it might turn the battle." Jack looked for Ayanna's father in the fighting below. He spotted Chief Standing Bear near Jack's ranch house, leading a group of warriors who were trying to hold their ground against twice as many enemies. "My father is trapped," Ayanna said, tears in her eyes. "Black Hawk has him surrounded." "Not for long," Jack said. He turned to Sheriff Bradley. "Can your men handle the gun runners?" "With surprise on our side, yes," the sheriff said. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to even the odds," Jack said. "Ayanna and I will ride down and help her father. You and your men stop those gun runners. When Black Hawk's men see their white allies are gone, some of them might give up the fight." Sheriff Bradley nodded. "Be careful, Jack. Don't get yourself killed trying to be a hero." "I'm not trying to be a hero," Jack said. "I'm trying to save my family." Jack and Ayanna rode down into the valley while Sheriff Bradley led his men toward the gun runner's position. The sound of battle got louder as they got closer, the clash of weapons, the cries of wounded men, the neighing of frightened horses. Jack had been in fights before, but never anything like this. War was chaos. Dust filled the air so thick it was hard to see. Men fought and died all around them. Jack tried to stay close to Ayanna, but the swirling battle kept pulling them apart. A crow warrior on a painted horse charged at Jack with a spear. Jack shot the man's horse, sending both horse and rider tumbling to the ground. Jack felt sick about shooting the horse, but he had no choice. Ayanna was deadly with her bow. Jack watched her put arrow after arrow into Black Hawk's warriors with perfect aim. She fought like she had been born for this, calm and focused even in the middle of chaos. "There," Ayanna shouted, pointing toward her father. Chief Standing Bear was fighting 3 warriors at once, his war club flashing in the morning sun. But Jack could see he was getting tired. The chief was not a young man anymore. Jack and Ayanna fought their way through the battle toward Chief Standing Bear. Jack used his rifle until he ran out of bullets, then switched to his pistol. When that was empty, he drew his knife. A big crow warrior blocked their path. The man swung a war club at Jack's head. Jack ducked and tackled the warrior around the waist. They rolled on the ground, fighting for Jack's knife. The warrior was stronger than Jack, but Jack was more desperate. He managed to get on top and pressed his knife to the warrior's throat. "Yield," Jack said in the few words of crow language he had learned. The warrior's eyes went wide with surprise. A white man speaking his language? The warrior stopped fighting and nodded. Jack let the man up and they both went back to the battle. But now the crow warrior was fighting against his own people, helping Jack and Ayanna reach Chief Standing Bear. When they finally reached the chief, he was down on one knee, bleeding from a cut on his head. 2 crow warriors stood over him, ready to finish him off. Ayanna's arrow took one warrior in the shoulder, spinning him around. Jack tackled the other one before he could bring his club down on Chief Standing Bear's head. "Father," Ayanna cried, kneeling beside the chief. "I am all right," Chief Standing Bear said, though he was clearly hurt. "Just need to catch my breath." Jack looked around the battle. Things were not going well for their side. Black Hawk's warriors were everywhere, and Jack's people were falling back toward the ranch house. Then Jack heard something that made his heart leap. Gunfire was coming from the hill where the gun runners had been positioned. Sheriff Bradley and his men had found their targets. The gun runners' rifles went silent one by one. Jack saw Sheriff Bradley's men advancing down the hill, driving the criminals before them. When Black Hawk's warriors saw that their white allies were defeated, some of them began to look uncertain. They had counted on those rifles to give them victory, but Black Hawk himself was not ready to give up. Jack could see the war chief fighting his way toward them, his war club bloody from battle. "Jack Morrison," Black Hawk shouted in English. "Face me like a man. We finish this between us." Jack looked at Chief Standing Bear and Ayanna. The chief nodded weakly. "It is the old way," he said. "If you defeat their war chief, his warriors might surrender. And if he defeats me?" Jack asked. "Then we all die," Chief Standing Bear said simply. Jack walked out to meet Black Hawk in a clear space between the fighting men. Warriors from both sides stopped fighting to watch. This was how wars used to be decided, with single combat between champions. Black Hawk was bigger than Jack and looked stronger. His war club was heavy wood with sharp stones tied to it. Jack had only his knife. "You have caused me much trouble, white man," Black Hawk said as they circled each other. "You started the trouble when you tried to steal a woman who didn't want you," Jack replied. Black Hawk charged with a roar, swinging his war club in a circle. Jack jumped back, feeling the wind from the club as it missed his head by inches. Jack tried to get inside Black Hawk's reach where the long war club would be less effective. But Black Hawk was a skilled fighter. He kept Jack at distance with short, quick swings of his weapon. The war club caught Jack on the arm, sending fire through his shoulder. Jack stumbled but managed to stay on his feet. Black Hawk pressed his attack, swinging the club again and again. Jack was getting tired. His arm hurt, and he could not get close enough to use his knife. Black Hawk was wearing him down with the longer reach of his weapon. Then Jack remembered something from his fight with Thunder the Wild Horse. Sometimes you had to think differently to win. Instead of trying to get closer to Black Hawk, Jack started moving away. He made Black Hawk chase him, making the bigger man work harder. Black Hawk was strong, but he was also heavy. All that muscle needed more air. Jack led Black Hawk in a circle around the watching warriors. The war chief swung his club over and over, but Jack stayed just out of reach. Soon Black Hawk was breathing hard. "Stand and fight like a man," Black Hawk panted. "I am fighting like a man," Jack said. "A smart man." When Black Hawk was tired enough, Jack made his move. As the war chief raised his club for another big swing, Jack dove forward and rolled between Black Hawk's legs. Jack came up behind Black Hawk and wrapped his arm around the war chief's neck. Black Hawk tried to reach back with his club, but the weapon was too long and awkward to use backwards. "It's over," Jack said, pressing his knife to Black Hawk's throat. "Tell your men to stop fighting." Black Hawk struggled for a moment, then went still. He looked around at his warriors who were watching and waiting for his decision. "You fight well for a white man," Black Hawk said quietly. "But this will not end here. Others will come for what I could not take." "Maybe," Jack said, "but not today. And maybe if people see that we can work together instead of fighting, there won't need to be more wars." Black Hawk looked surprised by Jack's words. "You would let me live?" "I would let you choose," Jack said. "Go home and leave us in peace, or keep fighting and die here." "Your choice." Black Hawk thought for a long moment. Finally, he called out to his warriors in his own language. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Sheriff Bradley came running over with his deputies. "We got all the gun runners," he reported. "Bart Mullins is dead and Snake Peterson is wounded but alive. He'll stand trial for selling illegal weapons." The battle was over. Men from both sides lay wounded or dead on the ground. But the killing had stopped. Jack let Black Hawk go and watched as the defeated war chief gathered his remaining warriors and rode away. "Will he come back?" Ayanna asked Jack. "I don't think so," Jack said. 6 months after the great battle, Jack's ranch looked very different. What had once been a small, lonely homestead was now the center of a growing community where two very different peoples were learning to live together. Jack had expanded his house to make room for Ayanna and Little Wolf. But the changes went much deeper than just adding more rooms. The ranch had become a meeting place where Native Americans and white settlers came to trade goods, share knowledge, and settle their differences with words instead of weapons. Chief Standing Bear had moved his people's winter camp to the valley near Jack's ranch. The arrangement helped both groups. The Native Americans could trade their beautiful beadwork, furs, and skilled horse training for tools, cloth, and other goods from the white settlements. The white settlers learned native hunting techniques, plant medicine, and ways to live better on the land. Jack woke up early one morning to the sound of little Wolf crying in the next room. The baby was 8 months old now and getting into everything. Jack smiled as he heard Ayanna talking softly to her son in their native language. "Good morning," Jack said as he walked into the kitchen where Ayanna was feeding little Wolf. "Good morning. Husband?" Ayanna said with a smile. Over the months, their friendship had grown into something deeper. They were truly married now in every way, and Jack could not imagine his life without her. "What do we have planned for today?" Jack asked, pouring himself coffee from the pot Ayanna always had ready. "Sheriff Bradley is coming with 3 families from Silver Creek," Ayanna said. "They want to buy land near here and learn farming from my father's people." Jack nodded. This had become common. Word was spreading that the valley around Jack's ranch was a safe place where people of different backgrounds could live together in peace. Families were coming from far away to be part of this new kind of community. "And tonight is the celebration feast," Ayanna added. 6 months since the battle. 6 months since we proved that cooperation is stronger than fighting. Jack had almost forgotten about the feast. Both communities had planned it together to celebrate their alliance and to honor the men who had died in the battle. It would be held in the large meadow between Jack's ranch and the native camp. After breakfast, Jack rode out to check on the cattle. But these were not just his cattle anymore. Chief Standing Bear's people had contributed horses and knowledge about raising animals. Together they had built the biggest ranch in the territory. Running Wolf met Jack at the edge of the pasture. The young warrior had become Jack's closest friend among the native men. He was learning to read and write English while Jack continued learning the Lakota language. "The cattle look good," Running Wolf said in English. His speech had improved greatly over the months. "Your father-in-law's advice about winter feeding was right," Jack replied. "We should have more calves this spring than ever before." Running Wolf grinned. "Gray Eagle will be happy to hear that. He likes being right about cattle almost as much as he likes being right about horses." The 2 men rode together across the pasture, checking on the animals. In the distance, they could see other mixed groups working together. Native children and white children played the same games. Women from both communities shared cooking techniques and sewing patterns. Men worked side by side building new houses and fixing fences. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Running Wolf asked Jack. "When life was simpler?" Jack thought about it. "I miss the quiet sometimes," he said. "But I do not miss being alone. And I think this new life is better, even if it is more complicated." "I feel the same way," Running Wolf said. "Before, we only knew our own ways. Now we know many ways to do things. We are stronger because we learn from each other." That afternoon, Sheriff Bradley arrived with the 3 families from Silver Creek. Jack and Ayanna met them at the main road and showed them around the valley. "This is amazing," said John Miller, one of the new settlers. "I heard stories, but I didn't believe them. White folks and Indians really living together in peace." "Not just living together," said his wife Mary. "Working together, building something together." Sheriff Bradley smiled. Jack and Ayanna started something special here. Now people are coming from hundreds of miles away to see how it works. "It's not always easy," Jack admitted. "We have arguments sometimes. People don't always understand each other, but we talk through our problems instead of fighting about them." Chief Standing Bear rode up to meet the new families. The old chief looked strong and healthy again. The head wound from the battle had healed completely, and leading this new kind of community had given him new energy. "Welcome to our valley," Chief Standing Bear said in careful English. "We hope you will be happy here." John Miller looked nervous. He had probably never talked to a Native American chief before. "Thank you, sir. We're honored to be here." "We are all just people trying to make good lives for our families," Chief Standing Bear said. "If you work hard and treat others with respect, you will do well here." That evening, the celebration feast began just as the sun was setting. Long tables had been set up in the meadow, with benches made from logs. The tables were covered with food from both cultures: roasted beef and venison, cornbread and fry bread, vegetables from native gardens and preserves from white settlers' pantries. Jack sat between Ayanna and Little Wolf, looking out at the mixed crowd of people eating and talking together. 6 months ago, Most of these people had never met. Some had been enemies. Now they were neighbors, friends, even family. Pete the blacksmith from Silver Creek was deep in conversation with Gray Eagle about different ways to work metal. The two men had become good friends, sharing techniques that neither had known before. Several native women were teaching white women how to weave baskets and make beadwork. In return, the white women had shown the native women new ways to preserve food and make soap. The children ran around together, playing games that mixed rules from both cultures. Little Wolf was too young to run with them, but he clapped his hands and laughed when they came near. "Look at them," Ayanna said to Jack, watching the children play. "They do not see differences the way we did when we were young. To them, everyone is just people." "Maybe that's how it should be," Jack said. As the evening went on, people began sharing stories. Some told about the old days, about traditions and histories from both cultures. Others talked about their hopes for the future. When it was Jack's turn to speak, he stood up slowly. He was not used to talking to big groups, but he had something important to say. "6 months ago, I was just a lonely cowboy trying to get by on my own," Jack began. "Then I jumped in a river to save a woman and her baby, and everything changed." People laughed and nodded. Everyone knew the story by now. "I learned that when you help someone, you don't just change their life," Jack continued. "You change your own life too. I gained a wife, a son, a father-in-law, and hundreds of new friends and family members." Jack looked at Ayanna, who was smiling up at him with tears in her eyes. "But we all learned something even more important," Jack said. "We learned that people who seem different on the outside can work together and build something better than either group could build alone." Jack raised his cup of coffee. "So here's to new beginnings. Here's to proving that cooperation is stronger than conflict. And here's to building a future where our children will never have to fight wars over differences that don't really matter." Everyone raised their cups and cheered. The sound echoed across the valley and into the night sky. Later, after the feast was over and most people had gone home, Jack sat on his porch with Ayanna and Little Wolf. The baby was asleep in his mother's arms, and the night was quiet except for the sound of crickets. "Do you think it will last?" Ayanna asked. "This peace we have built?" Jack thought about it. "I think it will last as long as people remember that we are stronger together than apart. As long as we keep talking to each other instead of making assumptions. As long as we remember that everyone wants the same basic things: food, shelter, safety, and love for their families. And if people forget these things, then we will remind them," Jack said. "We will tell them the story of how a cowboy and a native woman fell in love and built a community where everyone belongs." Ayanna leaned against Jack's shoulder. "It is a good story." "It's the best story I know," Jack said. "And the best part is it's not finished yet. We're still writing it every day." Above them, the stars shone down on the valley where two peoples had become one family. In the native camp, fires burned low as families settled in for the night. In the white settlement, lamps went out one by one as people went to bed. And in the house that had started it all, a former cowboy held his wife and son close, grateful every day for the river that had brought them together and the courage that had helped them build something beautiful from the most unlikely beginning. The future was uncertain, as futures always are. There would be challenges and problems to solve. But Jack and Ayanna and their growing community had proven that people could choose cooperation over conflict, understanding over fear, and love over hate. That was a lesson worth sharing with the world.